Welcome to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. Now, I've got a couple of interesting stories that I want to talk about today. The first of which involves a checkpoint refusal gone horribly, horribly wrong. It ended up with a man by the name of Greg Rosenberg being detained for 19 days, all because he refused to comply with the papers, please request at an internal border checkpoint inside the state of Texas. This wasn't him. This was not him trying to cross over from Mexico and, refusing to provide a passport. This was him driving down Interstate 35 in Texas, going through a checkpoint and asking questions of the person that was there, saying, "Give me your papers." The story comes from reason.com. It says you've probably seen them before. Internal border checkpoint refusals, now a popular YouTube genre. Some are funny, others hostile, but for Greg Rosenberg, a naturalized U.S. citizen who speaks accented English, an encounter with South Texas Border Patrol resulted in weeks of jail time without a single charge ever being prosecuted. Rosenberg, who immigrated to America 10 years ago from Armenia, says that memories and family stories of Soviet rule in his country of origin infused him with strong political beliefs and a reverence for individual rights. Rosenberg says, "Back then, in Soviet-controlled Armenia, if you complained about the government, they took you to Siberia." So perhaps it's no surprise that Rosenberg is a checkpoint protester. As a long-haul trucker, he has to drive through these all the time. After all, there are about 170 of them scattered across the United States. And keep in mind, these checkpoints aren't on an actual border. They just have to be within 100 miles of one. The ACLU estimates that roughly 2/3 of the nation's population lives within this 100-mile zone. So think about that for just 1 second. That the border zone of 100 miles, approximately 2/3 of the nation lives in that zone. Now, most people think that the only border is with Mexico or with Canada, but the entirety of the coastline is considered to be the international border. So if you go on a cruise and you leave the U.S. and you go to another country and then you come back, you have to go through customs because you are crossing a border. The article here from Reason continues. It says Rosenberg's ordeal began in the border town of Laredo, Texas. He and his friend pulled onto I-35 North around midnight on September 26th in a truck carrying a load of Xerox machines destined for Fort Worth. But only 20 miles north of the border, they'd encounter the Laredo North Border Patrol Station, and Greg would undergo a checkpoint interrogation like he'd never experienced before. He says, "They arrested me for what I looked like, but they pressed the charge because of my beliefs." Now, there is a video that Rosenberg produced. It's on reason.com, and I would love to play some of the audio of the video for you, but unfortunately, the way my setup is, I can't do that on this particular computer. But I will post the link to the story and the video in the show notes. That way, if you want to watch the video, it's about 9.5 minutes long. But it gives a lot of insight into what was happening, what was going through Rosenberg's mind when it was going on. And the charge that they gave him was resisting, assaulting, or impeding arrest, as well as there was another charge that was mentioned in the video here. I'm scrolling through on my laptop so that I can see it. It was impeding Border Patrol duties. And he mentions in the video that they only pressed the charges. Note, he was not prosecuted on these charges, but he was detained, arrested for 19 days, had these charges, was never prosecuted. But the reason they went forward and actually came up with some charges was because he refused to apologize for standing up for his rights. And at one point in the video, they mention that because he looks Middle Eastern. He's from Armenia. Okay, he's Armenian, which is not in the Middle East. It's, somewhat near, in the same way that, I don't know, like Northern Africa is near Western Europe. It's not exactly the same place, but it's kind of close on the map. Like, it's a lot closer than, the Middle East is to California. But because, they thought that he looked Middle Eastern, they mentioned 9/11 and said, well, because of 9/11, we got to be safe about these things. And then they were ultimately able to figure out that he is an American citizen, but because he refused to apologize for standing up for his rights, he was charged with impeding Border Patrol duties and resisting arrest. Again, he was not actually prosecuted on those charges, so at least, he doesn't have that, but still, he lost 19 days of his life for standing up for his rights. Now, something that, this is on a completely different note, but something that basically shows that the President of the United States doesn't really understand the word free. I've got a story here from UPI about President Barack Obama wanting to give free college to anyone who wants to attend community college. The story, as I said, from UPI says President Barack Obama said he plans to propose making the first 2 years of community college free for everybody who's willing to work for it. The announcement was made in a video posted to the president's Facebook page on Thursday. He intends to discuss education in a visit today at Poughkeepsie Community College in Tennessee, as well as in his State of the Union address later this month. In the video shot aboard Air Force One, Obama said, "I think everybody understands it is the key to success for our kids in the 21st century. We also have to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to constantly train themselves for better jobs, better wages, better benefits." He said he wants to make community college available for everyone, not just children, although I would say that children aren't going to community college. You have young adults that are going, although based on his definition, a child is anyone not yet 26 years old. There's more on this story and more when we come back on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com.
Hi, I'm Darryl W. Perry, and I need your help to take Peace, Love, Liberty Radio on the road. In the spirit of Motorhome Diaries and Liberty on Tour, I intend to take the message of peace, love, and liberty on the road. I intend to leave New Hampshire at the conclusion of the New Hampshire Liberty Forum and return at the beginning of PorkFest. During the 104-day trip, I'll be visiting at least 10 cities across the country, speaking to people about the ideas of peace, love, and liberty, while continuing to produce daily Liberty media. Pensacola, Florida, Austin, Texas, Sedona, Arizona, and Denver, Colorado are already on the map. If you have a college group, a local Liberty on the Rocks, or other Liberty meetup that you'd like me to visit, you can possibly add your event to my calendar. To find out more about the tour or to donate, visit tour.fppradio.com. That's tour.fppradio.com. You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for t-shirts, precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. There's an Amazon shopping iframe built into the website, or you can shop directly from FPP with Bitcoin in the Bitcoin store. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. That's shop.fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online at fppradio.com. So, Barack Obama wants everybody to go to community college for free. That's the claim. He says that everyone should have the opportunity, and, quote, "What I'd like to see is the first 2 years of community college free for everybody who's willing to work for it. It's something that we can accomplish, and it's something that will train our workforce so we can compete with anybody in the world." He adds that students who maintain a C+ average, that's roughly a 2.5 GPA on a 4.0 scale. And let me just add before I continue that pretty much any student that has above a 2.5 average can find some kind of scholarship to put them through college if they just look for it and actually take the time to look and apply. I was able to go through college on scholarships. There was only one quarter that I did not have a scholarship, and that's because basically, I screwed up and didn't do enough work towards the forensic scholarship, but I didn't find out that I lost the scholarship until I was enrolling in classes for the next quarter. And then the academic advisor said, "Oh, and you no longer have that scholarship." So I only had to pay for one quarter of college, and then beginning the next quarter, I was on a radio station management scholarship and helped manage the student radio station. And, that's how I finished the last year and a half of community college. So if you just look and apply and put some effort towards it, you can find a scholarship. You don't need this weird program, whatever the hell it's going to be called. But I guarantee you it's probably going to be, something as far as like an extension of the Pell Grant or something that, somehow although the Pell Grants are based on income, so this, it's obviously not going to be exactly like the Pell Grant, but it's going to be some sort of weird grant program. There's still going to be some sort of paperwork to fill out, of course. But it takes away the effort of looking for a real scholarship and looking for something that you actually have to put some sort of effort into, to where instead of just go to class, you have to go to class and do something else. The students, in addition to maintaining a 2.5 GPA average, students would have to attend at least half-time. Now, what they mean by that is there's a certain number of credit hours that they consider full-time. You have to go at least half of whatever that number is. So if it's 18 hours as a full load, you have to have at least 9 credit hours. Or if it's 15, you need to have at least 7.5. So, it does make sure that it's not just going to wind up going to somebody that wants to take, like, one class. So, I guess, at least there's some sort of standard here. And finally, they want to make sure that the person is, quote, making steady progress towards a degree in order to qualify for the funding. Now, here is the very funny part about this free community college plan. The White House has not released the details about how much the plan would cost. But wait a second, Mr. President. You just said it would be free. Why do free things cost me money? Oh, because they're not actually free? You have to steal money from one person in order to pay for it for somebody else? Yeah, then stop using the word free. Just like, I could say that there is free shipping on all orders from shop.fpp.cc. Now, that would not be a true statement. Now, I could say that there is no shipping cost passed on to you when you purchase from my Bitcoin store, but the shipping isn't free. I still have to pay the shipping, but I'm not charging you for the shipping. So there has to be some sort of way to word this to where it implies that someone is paying for it, just not the person receiving the benefit. So the White House has not yet released details about how much the plan would cost, though the federal government would cover 75% of the cost, and states that opt in would pick up the rest of the tab. Now, the words opt in are not actually in this article here, but that's really what it is, because there's not going to be a requirement that a state participate in this. It would be opt in. The article continues. It says Obama's plan would also fund high-quality technical training programs. Policy advisor Cecilia Munoz said it would make community college the norm for the United States. Now, I already thought that college was considered to be the norm, because I remember growing up being told, in order to get a good job, you have to go to college. And, over the last, 10, 15 years, it's been 16 years since I graduated college. So I'd say at least the last 10 years is when you've really seen the sort of drastic rise in the prices of college, and that's greatly due to the fact that there's basically a bubble within the education industry, much like the housing bubble, where prices were artificially inflated because people didn't really have to pay for it themselves. They would just take out the loan, and then they'd refinance and do this and that. And that's what's happening with college. You have so many students now that are just taking out loans, so they're not paying for school while they're in school. The schools can raise tuition whatever they want. Most parents aren't paying for school. They're telling their kids, take out a loan, get a grant, do this, do that, jump through this hoop, jump through that hoop, and get quote-unquote free money. And so the schools realize that they can get more of this free money that isn't actually coming from the students, so they raise rates. And so college becomes more expensive because so many more kids are going to college. So I, for a long time, have thought that college was the norm. Apparently not. Or at least not according to presidential policy advisor Cecilia Munoz, who says that she wants to make sure that community college is the norm. Now, something else that's interesting about college, even community college, is that about half of what you learn is a rehash of what you learned in high school, or it's one of these, filler classes, basically, that is not in any way directly related to the major that you're going for. I majored in mass communications with a specialization in broadcasting, but I still had to take an art appreciation and a music appreciation class. I still had to take history classes. I still had to take 4 electives that had absolutely nothing to do with what I was learning. I want to rant a little bit more about education when we come back on Peace, Love, Liberty Radio.
ExpressCoin is the best choice for buying Bitcoin, Litecoin, Dogecoin, and more. ExpressCoin prides themselves on their customer service, so much so that the back end on the website should allow them to be even more focused on your needs. Get your cryptocurrencies with money order, check, wire transfer, or cash deposit. Get started at expresscoin.fppradio.com. That's expresscoin.fppradio.com. Hi, I'm Darryl W. Perry, and I need your help to take Peace, Love, Liberty Radio on the road. In the spirit of Motorhome Diaries and Liberty on Tour, I intend to take the message of peace, love, and liberty on the road. I intend to leave New Hampshire at the conclusion of the New Hampshire Liberty Forum and return at the beginning of PorcFest. During the 104-day trip, I'll be visiting at least 10 cities across the country, speaking to people about the ideas of peace, love, and liberty, while continuing to produce daily Liberty media. Pensacola, Florida, Austin, Texas, Sedona, Arizona, and Denver, Colorado are already on the map. If you have a college group, a local Liberty on the Rocks, or other Liberty meetup that you'd like me to visit, you can possibly add your event to my calendar. To find out more about the tour or to donate, visit tour.fppradio.com. That's tour.fppradio.com.
Welcome back to Peace, Love, Liberty Radio. Online at fppradio.com. So the president wants free community college for everyone. The policy advisor who I'm guessing helped him come up with this idea, Cecilia Munoz, says that she wants to make community college the norm for the United States, which would then pretty much, if community college is going to be expected the same way it's expected that one gets a high school diploma, then you would then basically wind up with 14, 15 years of government-funded schooling that would be considered the norm. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. Now, let me just rant a little bit more about college. Because even in community college, where I went for 2 years, I had classes that had nothing to do with my major. I had to take classes that had nothing to do with anything other than basically, we want you to have an extra class because it gives us money and it creates a job for this teacher, because if music appreciation weren't required or art appreciation weren't required, then, well, the music appreciation and art appreciation teacher wouldn't have a job because not enough people would be taking their class, so therefore we're going to mandate that you take one or the other. Oh, yeah, and you've got, 4 other elective classes that you have to take. We're not going to tell you exactly what they have to be, so, here's your options. Oh, and, yeah, you pretty much have to take the ones that basically guarantee that somebody has a job. Now, if those things were not required classes and one was not required to take electives, then I can guarantee you there would still be people that would take those classes, because certainly that fits in with some major somewhere, like a general studies degree or, some sort of art class. You obviously, if you're majoring in creating art, you have to have an appreciation for art. If you're majoring in some sort of music thing, you have to have an appreciation of music. Here's this class. But again, that's sort of remedial of things that you've already learned or things that you already know. So a lot of community college, and I'm sure it's even worse at a 4-year school, is basically a rehash of things you already know, a rehash of things that you have already learned, or simply a class that is required as sort of a make busy work sort of thing for the students of, well, you have to have 5 classes every semester, and only 3 of them are related to what it is that you're majoring in. But, well, we mandate that you have 5, so just take 2 extras. Oh, yeah, and we're going to mandate that you take so many math classes. It doesn't matter that you're taking the same math class that you took in high school. We demand that you take a math class in college. Now, certainly, in college I could have taken calculus had I wanted to, but I had no desire to be a mathematician, so why would I take a math class that I didn't want to learn? So I took algebra, which is a class that I had in 8th grade in junior high. When I was in college, the English class was basically the same English class that I had in high school. The history class was basically the same history class that I had in high school. The biology class was basically the same biology class that I had in high school. Why was I forced to take classes in college that I passed in high school? That makes absolutely no sense, and just goes to show some of the lunacy and the ludicrousness of the college system. But yet now the president wants community college to be the norm, so that then people basically wind up going 15 years of indoctrination camp instead of just 13. Most people think 12, but kindergarten has become so normal now that you have K through 12. So that's kindergarten plus 1 through 12 is 13. You add on 2 years community college, that's 15 years of indoctrination camp, to where the government can teach you whatever the government wants you to know. And for the most part, they're not teaching you how to think for yourself. They're not teaching you how to think critically. They're not teaching you life skills. They're not teaching you how to balance a checkbook, how to check the oil in your car, how to negotiate for buying a car. They don't teach you those things. They teach you how to sit down, shut up, and do as you're told. The article here continues. It says, Ben Miller, a senior education policy analyst at the New America Foundation, told the Los Angeles Times the plans would be difficult to pass in this Congress, adding increasing investments in higher education are just hard to find. In the video, Obama added, I hope we get the chance to make sure that Congress gets behind these kinds of efforts to make sure that even as we rebound and grow in 2015, that it benefits everybody and not just some. Now, real quick, there's no way to have a policy that, quote-unquote, benefits everybody that gives something away for supposedly free. You know, aside from the people that are losing tax dollars to pay for this program, you're setting a barrier, basically, that says that you have to go to school at least half-time. You have to have a C-plus average, which is a 2.5 GPA, and you have to, quote, make steady progress towards a degree in order to qualify for the funding. Now, there are going to be some people that don't qualify for the funding, so those people, Mr. President, are not going to benefit. Now, it could be argued that they're not trying to benefit from life because they're not trying to actually work towards achieving something, but there are many reasons why someone can't go at least half-time. And now I'm not going to try arguing that this should be applied or applicable to everyone, because I don't think that it should exist at all as a policy. But if you're going to say that we're creating this policy, here are the guidelines, and we're making sure that it benefits everyone, then you're speaking out of both sides of your mouth, because you can't have a minimum threshold and then say that this is going to benefit everyone, because not everyone can meet that threshold. So I think it's a bad policy. Hopefully it doesn't go through Congress, but most likely what will happen is this will wind up getting added on as a rider to some other bill that nobody is going to dare vote against, and then this is going to wind up passing, and more money is going to be thrown into the education bubble until ultimately one day it just explodes and bursts all over everywhere. This has been Peace, Love, Liberty Radio, online, fppradio.com.